It's been some time until
It's been a while.
since we did a tier list. This is TLW. It's a precursor to the TLFs because we needed to do it. It's 10.0.7.
It's been a while, and we've done plus 15s and 16s at heroic rating, and it's time to actually get into the meta.
Back to the meta,
the
baby.
meat of things. The M+, after a lot of changes, has been done to not as many melee as ranged, but we kind of have a better idea of where things are, and they are quite different from last time.
Yeah, they're very different. Not all of them. You're gonna still have specs that are probably you were expecting them to be S tier. We're gonna take a look at that and see why. But first of all, if you ever thought about playing Diablo in any capacity, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, or Diablo 4, you maybe want to check out our new channel, Diablo Forever. Link is in the description. It's another side project we're working on. It's a passion project, more or less, and it's all about Diablo. So do check it out. That being said, let's get into it.
Let's kick it with the Arms Warrior. Arms, I don't remember where we had Arms last time, but Arms is doing pretty well this time.
It was better because, you know, all of those nice changes to, goddamn this chair, the changes to the execute, having executes all over the place really bumped it up. Well, all its damage profile kind of got risen up with the... Was it in 10.05? Somewhere in 10.05.
It was in 10.05. Actually, we haven't had Arms changes in about a month or so right now. However, I believe that last time when we looked at Arms, it was just getting into it. It was just getting into it, and now it's fully realized into the beautiful flower that it always wanted to be.
Yeah, you can definitely portray an Arms Warrior being a flower. But in terms of tier list and rankings, it's a solid A tier. It's clearing super high keys. We're looking at
26s, 27s.
Yeah, that range.
It's kind of there, kind of there.
Yeah. Okay, next on the list, Assassination Rogue. Oh boy, same old.
Not doing as well, but to be fair, to Assassination's credit, it's actually doing a lot better. If you actually look at the Assassination Rogues that are playing keys, they're doing higher keys than what meta websites would rank them as. Yeah. And although, listen, we're not entirely sure if that's because, you know, they're main subs and they're just doing high keys with assassinations with their friends that are usually doing higher keys. Maybe if they're like carried, I don't really think so. But even so, because, you know, after a while, even if you are carried, you cannot be carrying like 26 or 27.
No. But to be fair, Assassination Rogue can dish out the damage, and especially in high keys, you're gonna have Assassination pump out. That's not an issue over there. It's just it will always have to compete with the other two specs in the Rogue realm, and usually main Rogue players will choose the other two specs in some capacity. They're better. This is why. In terms of like the keys Assassination does, I don't know what's the max. Maybe
it's I think 20. No. I think it's a little bit higher. It's still around 26s. I think I saw two 27s cleared by the top Assassination Rogue, but I don't think we've ever had it as high as B tier.
I don't remember, but the thing is, all other melee specs are doing higher keys as well, right? So if you've seen like only 2 logs for 27s, then for Arms, where you're gonna see a lot more logs on 27. So
for sure,
that's the honest truth. Now let's get into the Outlaw Rogue, who has definitely been more prominent choice for the Rogue mains. You've seen it topping the S tiers for quite a while until
today, when it has been dethroned. Actually, I think people are just gravitating more towards sub when they're clearing the highest of the high keys, and now it's actually relevant in the rankings as well. So Outlaw kind of took a little bit of a dip. That's not because it's bad. That's not because it was nerfed or anything like that. It just so happens that, you know, when you get to even higher level of keys than last time we've looked at this, it's Assassination. Subtlety is just pulling a little bit ahead. They all look like the same. Yeah,
but the keys that Outlaw Outlaw players do are still like the super highest of the highest over there. Yeah, you can talk a little bit about the changes that, you know, that they had with the little bit of nerfs over there. I know a couple of Outlaw mains kind of complain, like high players complain about the maybe a little bit of clunkiness into the gameplay since they did the changes, but overall it's still a very high performance spec. So top of the A tier, I think, is well deserved.
Yeah, it's really good.
A spec that has been nerfed in 10.0.7, and Flame did quite a expressive video about it. Survival Hunter. Now, you know, Survival Hunter did quite a lot of damage with its Mongoose Bite, regardless if it's single target or AoE. What did get nerfed?
That was nerfed. I mean, it only makes sense to nerf the single target ability for survival. That was the one that did the most amount of damage. But that's fine. You can check the video out. It's on our channel if you want, you know, more fleshed out opinion. That's also very, very salty and emotional. That aside, Survival is doing actually obviously higher keys than last time we checked it, but everybody else is also. And
higher.
I think the best comparison would be with Assassination. Assassination is actually pulling 1 or 2 keys ahead of, I think, 2
keys. More
keys.
logs, basically, you can see on Assassination.
And, you know, I mean, most hunters would probably not play Survival. They'll probably play on different things. And Survival does have its benefits. You do have very, very high single target damage, but so do pretty much all the rogue specs. When it comes to boss damage,
yes,
I've seen them, so it doesn't really bring a lot, so probably people don't even push it as much as they could.
Well, let's just rank it here. It's a C tier, not
It's
really
C
a surprise for caca. You know, it happens like that. Happens like that with a spec that kind of felt neglected for the longest time.
But it's okay because they bounced it and they nerfed it, so
yeah,
it
it's
stays
beautiful.
there. No chance.
I'm sorry. There'll be a time where Survival will be back on top. I'm sure of it. Now let's get into a guaranteed top melee spec, which is Enhancement Shaman.
Enhancement Shaman.
What can you say about Enhancement, man? If you look at the highest keys, like, yeah, it's one of those specs that clears the highest keys, first of all.
Yeah, I think Enhancement is the only consistent S-tier spec that we've had.
Oh, it's S-tier? Oh my god, oh no, how could this happen?
Ever since the beginning of the expansion. I don't remember.
Beginning of time, actually.
Yeah, we remember the Shadowlands days. Nobody remembers that. There wasn't an Enhancement Shaman back then, but now Enhancement is still very solid. It hasn't seen any changes whatsoever, so if you are an Enhancement main or you did think about playing Enhancement, you're pretty well sat in terms of M+, not to mention that what we've seen from 10.1, you're probably safe playing Enhancement in the future as well.
Enhancement has like the one of the greatest damage kits out there. It can deliver on all aspects regarding of what type of affix you're looking at, you know, tyrannical, or it's like all-rounded, one of the best, and it's a well-deserved S tier. Now, Feral Druid, on the other hand, I honestly believe Feral Druid, although we always like advertised it and said Feral is very great, I think it got a huge bump.
I think people are like, okay, let me play Feral Druid.
They
and
saw it in the MDI, and it's like, yeah.
You know what happens? You know what happens when people play Feral Druid? Tell them what happens, man.
I don't know what happens.
It's in front of Outlaw.
I'm not gonna do that. Listen, I love Feral and I love my rogues, but I have to like admit it in terms of like the differences are very small. Let's be honest here.
They're very small, so but it's just enough to point it out, and I think it deserves to point out. Like Feral's worked really hard to be top of the A tier.
This is such a divide for me because I love Feral and I love Outlaw as well. So it's, but again, there's like maybe 1 or 2 locks more with a Feral pushing like higher keys. This is why
it's pretty much A tier is equal across the board. You're fine anything that's in A tier.
I mean, Feral Druid, we saw the absolute blast of the talent builds they had, like from the get-go, obviously from alpha and beta with all the issues, but it became one of the strongest specs, and I would say rightfully so. The whole pack is just beautiful. Finishing with bleeds, AoE finishers, big burst, super single target damage, super cleave damage. I mean, it's there. Gotta give it props, A tier. And I'm sure a lot of these boys here have picked up Feral after the MDI. But let's move along to the Frost Death Knight. And
well, Frost Death Knight, let me tell you a story, man. Do you remember the Wrath of the Lich King cinematic when Arthas listens to his dad's voice saying that no king rules forever?
When did Frost rule?
Now, Frost wasn't a king, but it definitely isn't ruling anything because right now, Frost Death Knight has become the official worst
we have to
melee
disclaim
spec.
this. We have to disclaim this.
Yeah, well, this is very weird because obviously we're looking at the top Frost DKs playing, and we also know that some Frost DKs like Biceps are doing some weird stuff that are just melting the meters there, so I don't know exactly where this is supposed to be. And even for a D tier spec, Frost is doing 24s and 25s, which are probably higher than the 99% of us out there, which I guess it's fine, but it probably is a symptom of people probably still wanting to make that breath work, the dungeon not being actually tuned properly for Frost, or it could just be that Frost just doesn't do as much damage, or Unholy is just a better spec.
Yeah, it definitely has strong competition with Unholy, as you will see in a couple of minutes, but we cannot go and say, listen, Frost Death Knight does poor damage. No, clearing 24s and 25s and being somewhere at the top, we've seen Biceps video as well. Yeah, we can talk about the fact that people are avoiding it because of the Breath of Sindragosa staple or whatever, and actually a lot of DK mains choose to move to Unholy, but we've seen Obliteration builds do ridiculous amounts of damage in high keys as well. Who knows? Maybe that can change in the future.
It's probably more to do with the kit than anything else, and I think for us might need to be actually designed properly for M+. Who knows, in 10.1 that might change, but as it stands, obliteration is not enough, breath and
so again, ranks are not on the damage it pulls out, it's like the highest keys logged on these specs,
what
right? So it's 24s, 25s is like the lowest, even more than survival. How about that? Okay, Fury Warrior. Fury Warrior may be like a very similar story to Arms. It's one of the most consistent and fluid specs you can have in Mythic Plus. You can see like if you break down damage numbers, you're probably gonna see some disparity over there. But again, this is not about the damage because the logs on these players are like kind of the best of the best. So
yeah, I mean to make it as high as Fury is, you do enough damage, so that's not even a question. And to be fair, what I found it surprising is how close Fury is to Arms right now, because there was always that discussion like, oh, Fury is so much better, Arms is so much better, but they're actually pretty similar in terms of overall performance. It's a nice place to be if you're a warrior DPS. You have options, they're both doing really great. So what more can you ask out of life?
No, it's fair. It's over there at the top of the chain of the keys,
top of the game.
The food chain of the keys. I mean, you're looking again at like super high keys for like all across the board. Arms and Fury 26, 27s, they got all of that. Now, another super strong spec up in the mix, Havoc Demon Hunter, which we talked about Havoc. We pointed out its strong points. As always, it's a really good design spec for Mythic Plus, maybe one of the best, but that's not the point. The point is it does also damage, which is also good, but that's also not the point. The point is the point then? Havoc is actually barely hanging on to the S tier rank. Yes, it's not because it's bad. It's just a lot of people probably play, Enhancement and maybe some other specs that you might see in S tier. But the thing is, it would have been A tier, but there are a couple of logs with higher keys than Feral.
Yeah, so it's
it's a very similar story to like with Feral and Outlaw. If like we have like 2 or 3 more logs with higher keys than the previous one, then yeah, it should be there with some S tier. Because this is like basically the S tier. Like when you're looking at 27 plus, then yeah, that's S tier for sure. Now, the star of 10.0.7, the Retribution Paladin, baby!
The poster boy, man, have we seen some changes. I mean, we're not gonna talk about how good Ret is, because we're gonna talk about it with some other occasion, it is good. It's doing way better, I mean, both in the design, and I have to say, I'll let you talk, but I have to say, as a healer, Red takes the least amount of damage, man. It's such
about time.
So different, man, because I healed your ass and everybody else and you weren't taking any damage. Like, what the hell?
Not only that, but it contributes to a lot of like passive healing without being like passive being passive. You don't have to do shit to like start healing everybody. Passively, you contribute to a lot of healing, so that's a big plus for the teams. Now, we have been accused in the past that we hate Paladins and Retribution and we like always throw them to the bin. Obviously, people never listen to what we say. We have like championed the spec ever since they announced the rework, and we think it's a lot better as opposed to the garbage talents and builds they had previously to this.
Consecration damage.
That being said, the rework has definitely bumped up the number of logs. A lot of people switched to main or
well, there's definitely a lot more Red Paladins playing, and like, okay, we don't normally fixate on damage when we like or dislike a class, and obviously this is not about it, and it doesn't matter what we care, it matters what the stats and data say, and data puts Red
into A tier, baby. Let's go.
When was the last time Red was so high, though? I don't think we ever had Red.
I don't remember, to be honest. Maybe in Shadowlands in a couple of points.
New meta.
Yeah, I think it's well deserved, especially with the rework. It's much more fun, and you have a lot more viable builds.
It's a much better spec.
Let's just enjoy the moment while it lasts. Now, the biggest surprise of this tier list is the Subtlety spec. I don't think anyone expected this, but hey, we're just gonna place it here because listen, you know this was never gonna happen in a million years. There you go. Now we can close the tier list the fuck out and get some breakfast.
Yeah, so obviously this is no surprise to anybody. Sub's doing really good. Sub hasn't been touched by the devs for a while, and I don't think it's gonna have any changes to it prior to 10.1 coming out. I don't know if they're gonna tune this in any way. However, Sub is actually doing really good, which I am perfectly fine with, even though I'm not a rogue main. I know the struggles Sub has had over the years trying to be a viable spec in almost any type of content, and I'm perfectly happy seeing Sub rogues being happy, pushing keys, and why not?
people would argue that the spec is broken. No, it's not. I think its damage profile is quite all right, especially when you're looking at, you know, a large density of packs. It's doing great. It's not the easiest spec to pull off.
And it doesn't even do the most amount of damage in the game.
No, it doesn't. That's another truth about it. If you look at like the comps where Sub Rogue plays, it's usually at the best the second top. Sure, in super big packs when it has like all the cooldowns and the boon and everything like that, yeah, the burst is super high, but in overall, you won't see them topping off that much. It's just the fact that a Sub Rogue has access to its like burst very often, and it has the mobility and it has the tools. It's a rogue, it has a lot of tools.
Yeah,
like,
which
as
one?
opposed to like, let's say Outlaw, right? Which Outlaw suffers a huge DPS loss if he has the stun stuff. That's the honest truth. You don't really want that as an Outlaw, right? Subtlety, although you can talk about losing a lot of DPS, you have a way more easier time and less punishable time stunning multiple targets as opposed to Outlaw. So there's a lot of factors here. It's S tier. That's
good.
it. Okay. Unholy Death Knight.
Also, now this is actually a surprise. Don't trick them anymore, man.
No, this is an actual surprise because Unholy struggled, at least in terms of like the keys we've seen and logged. You didn't really see that much super higher keys or those many logs. But now...
You know what's funny? All of the good Unholies that we've watched, Biceps included as well, and all of the good Unholies that were in the comments whenever we ranked it, I was like, well, but Unholy does so much damage. I was like, yeah, we know, but you know, numbers and stats and data and that
it does
stuff.
damage, but people were...
But now, actually, people are like, okay, well...
Yeah, the microphone is okay.
Okay, but you know, let's actually play some higher keys. And what happens when you take Unholy into higher key?
It's basically I think it's better than arms at this point.
It's by very little, but similar as to first. Like, listen, they work really hard to have like 5 extra IO score or whatever, or do 1 extra plus 27th than the arms warrior. So okay, let's give it to them. Let's put Unholy middle, if not top middle of the A tier. It's doing really good. Obviously, it has a lot of the good things going for it. And what's funny is that it didn't really receive much over the course of the last couple of months.
No, I think it's a symptom where a lot of people started to pick it up more and more, because as opposed to like our last 2 melee tier lists for the meta, there's a lot more logs on Unholy Death Knight. So this is another factor we need to take into account. Like previously, we didn't see that many logs, and the ones that we did see were not that high of keys. Right now, there's a bunch of logs everywhere and showing off that Unholy Death Knight is clearing super high keys. So this is why it's in the front end of the A tier for sure. Last on the list, the Windwalker Monk, which I think it retains its position ever since Shadowlands, I believe.
I think we had it in A tier at the beginning of Dragonflight.
Was it though?
When you had Outlaw and Enhanced, just them being the only melees clearing out the highest of keys.
Yeah, that could be true.
But for the last couple of weeks, even months probably, Windwalker has been pretty steady. I mean, it's in a really good spot. It's probably the best example of a let's say a decent, a well-mannered S tier spec where it's not destroying the.
Did you say? Okay.
Oh, did I say? I was wrong. I meant S tier.
Yeah.
When it's not destroying the meters in any outrageous, degenerate way. It doesn't have like the best single target in the game. It's just really good. It has the tools. It has what you need from a monk. You're likely gonna run a Windwalker before you're gonna run a Brewmaster or a Mistweaver. So it is what it is. Once upon a time, it used to be S tier, and now it's also S tier.
Yeah. And another interesting fact about Windwalker Monks, and this also kind of goes hand in hand with Enhancement as well. If you look at the comps where these two melees are played, as opposed to Subtlety, you would see one of these specs maybe at the top of the chart damage. So they do a lot more damage than Subtlety, for example. But this doesn't mean, I know, because of that, Subtlety has to be in B tier or whatever.
Well, probably where Windwalker's losing some single targets, Subtlety doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. But this is the overall picture. Now, again, guys, if we pull up like the Warcraft logs page right now, right, and see everything over there, you would rank them differently. This is all on performance, but this is not how we rank them. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when we look at stuff, we kind of want to be slightly more well-rounded, but also pay attention to what's actually going on in the actual community, and stuff like Warcraft logs kind of see red way lower than obviously what they're actually doing in the game, which is a little bit weird, and also Havoc a lot lower than what it's actually doing. So that's performance, right? So that's basically like the numbers they put out and stuff. But when you look at the actual keys they're pumping, and if you look at their damage profile from like event to event, so let's say it's like a super
intense, dense mob pack, or a super fortified pack, or a super tyrannical boss, right? These specs kind of shine in different scenarios within Mythic Plus at these high levels. So as long as like a red paladin, which you would see very low on Warcraft logs over there, is clearing like 26s, then it has to be an A tier as opposed to a Frost DK where you see 24s and 25s.
Yeah, and even sub-creation ranks Windwalker B tier, man.
Yeah, look at the sub-creation. So sub-creation is like purely automated, right? If you look at it now, you would see a lot of these specs into B tier. However, Windwalker Monk clears 27s,
yeah,
28s.
It's likely because maybe this week Windwalker hasn't cleared as high as it normally does. It's funny that Feral is higher than Windwalker, so hey, yeah. I can take that. I'll be fine with that.
It's weird. This is why we cannot like, okay, take 100% what we see on sub-creation or 100% what we see on Warcraft logs. We kind of like look at both of them and then try to get a sort of a middle ground and decide, okay, what is the highest key these specs are clearing. Because again, damage profiles, all these specs can deliver pretty good. Even the Frost DKs, if you've seen Biceps, you would see how much he blessed as a Frost Dead Knight with the Obliteration build. Those two, but not really.
You don't see these, it's fine.
All right. Well, this is the final image. First of all, thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content. You are making all of this possible. If you're interested, check the link in the description. And also in the description, you can check the link for our new channel, Diablo Forever. All things Diablo will be done over there.
Really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel, especially if you like the Diablo content.
All right, thanks for watching. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.